Welcome to the Lioness at the Door podcast. I'm Jackie Sorensen. I'm a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a holistic health coach for women of faith and their families. The image of Lioness at the Door is meant to inspire us to see ourselves as converted, wise, strong, and able women at the door of our homes, but also at the door of our choices. The door represents the opportunity to choose our path, even our thoughts, moment by moment and in all circumstances. My prayer is that the few minutes you spend listening to this podcast will help you feel more loved, understood, appreciated, and encouraged to meet the challenges that are uniquely yours. When we feel loved and take responsibility for ourselves, we can love others and teach them to be responsible too, which is a great recipe for progress and for healthy family relationships. So, thanks for being here, and we'll move on to today's topic. Agent of time. One of the greatest decisions we make in our lives may seem like the most mundane and possibly the most habitually unconscious. Yet I think it's one of the greatest responsibilities we have and one on which our children's future is most dependent. That decision is how we choose to use our time. Hello, my friend. I hope this finds you well. This topic is near and dear to me because it's been one of my greatest challenges. Several clients have recently cited this issue as one of their most difficult challenges too, so I hope this will be helpful. Our lives are made up of seconds, minutes, hours, days, and years, and they are ours to do with what we will. And yet sometimes as parents, our children depend on us for the outcomes of those decisions we make about the use of our time. So would you like to do a little activity that's designed to assist you in growing a bit further in your ability to direct yourself, make conscious decisions, and to be more trustworthy with your time? If so, sweet. I'll ask you a few thought questions in hopes that your answers may empower you to set new boundaries if needed, and give you strength to follow through with what you feel would be in the best interest of you and your family, in particular, your dependent children. Okay, so can you get a piece of paper and a pencil? Here we go. Number one, what are your absolute top priority self-care activities when it comes to strengthening, nurturing, and uplifting yourself in order to show up each day in a loving state with your family? Please just use this as a questionnaire and pause the recording to write out your answers, okay? Number two, how often are you doing those most critical self-care activities that you wrote about with question number one? And if you can see that you're not doing them regularly, and your love tank is chronically running low, what is getting in the way of your actually doing what you know you need to do to nurture yourself? Like, for example, having meaningful prayer, scripture study, exercising, journaling, speaking your declarations, etc. Number three, how much time are you spending daily on social media, such as YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, etc.? If you don't know off the top of your head, maybe you could consult your phone and get a good feel for how much time you're spending. And how does your time spent on these platforms add to or take away from your sense of feeling loved, acceptable, and accountable? Did it take much effort to think of and write about the answers to those questions? And are your answers surprising or no? Okay. I hope you're pausing and not just listening. I hope you're pausing and actually taking the time to write out your answers to these questions, because that's where the real gem is going to be in your response to these. Just thinking about the questions is nice, but if you will actually pause and write out your answers, I think you're going to be really blessed by hearing this. So I hope you will. Okay, number 4. What are the consequences of not showing up, at least a lot of the time, as your loving self, particularly with your family? I invite you to hang with this question a little bit. Don't answer too quickly. Write out all of the ramifications you can think of not of the consequences of not showing up, at least a lot of the time, as your loving self. Number 5. Is there something that your children need more than to be loved and taught by you in kindness, gentleness, and respectful firmness? Can you think of anything? Any sports experience or academic opportunity or work or friend or even a potential career opportunity? Is there anything that your children need more than to be loved and taught by you? Number 6, based on your answer to the previous question, how important is your decision to block out time to care for yourself? How big a deal is that? Number 7, what do you perceive is preventing you from holding space for your self-care time? What do you say to someone or to yourself? Well, I couldn't do that because. What's the because? Number 8, if your children are depending on you to use your time in the best possible way for the greatest possible outcome for them, for their well-being, then what new decisions could you make? I hope that you'll see through your answers to these questions how best to use your time for the well-being of your family. And then just one more thought to consider, okay? I believe that the one common thinking error that precludes us from taking great care of ourselves is our habitual victim brain thinking. I know all about this. I got it down pat. And it takes a bit of doing to undo. So when you were answering some of these questions, did you hear kind of a victim voice in your head? Like, I don't have time because my kids won't leave me alone. Or I would be able to do the things that would fill me up if only my husband would, fill in the blank, X, Y, or Z. It seems that because on a whole, many of us don't have practice setting boundaries in a kind, gentle, firm, and respectful way, we may believe we can't set a boundary at all unless we're harsh and mean and scary. And we don't want to be that either. So we settle for being exhausted and snappy and irritable and demanding, unloving and defeated instead. All the while feeling justified in treating our people badly because after all, we are the victim in this, right? I totally get it. But sooner or later, we have to come to see our points of choice and to take responsibility for those choices if we want our children to grow to the point of being loving and responsible people themselves. So here's the challenge. If you haven't been able to set a boundary around your own self-care activities in a kind, gentle, firm, respectful, and sustainable way, like finding the win-win solution for you and the rest of your family. Please use your answers to the questions to craft a new schedule for your self-care activities, knowing with this perspective that you've learned by answering these questions how important it is for you to feel loved so that you can be loving and responsible yourself. Our kids are really depending on us to make these important decisions for their well-being, even though they don't have the maturity, or maybe they don't have the maturity to know it yet. They may not know how much they're depending on us to hold the time that we have carved out sacred for our own well-being so that it can turn into something that's for their well-being. This issue is worthy of prayer and fasting, of temple worship, of journaling, until you find baby step solutions that you can implement as soon as possible. I hope you'll leave a comment if you have some revelatory experience while you're answering these questions, or some aha, so that the rest of us can be inspired. In order to find success in family life and parenting, we have to continue our journey of growing up and becoming increasingly accountable for the use of our time and energy. And of course, with God's help, I believe we can. So I send you all my love today. Hope you found this helpful, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.